others love.
This conflict intensified when Jesus, while in Jerusalem, disrupted the temple sacrifices and called Israel's leaders a gang of rebels.
So they arrested Jesus, and they had him accused before the Roman authorities of being a rebel king. He was handed over for execution, even though he was innocent. Then he was taken outside the city and put to death on false charges.
This brings us to the final section of the Gospel of Luke. There was a religious leader named Joseph who opposed Jesus' execution and then requested to be given his body so he could bury Jesus in a nearby tomb.
And then a couple of days later, some women who had followed Jesus came to visit that tomb, and they found it open and empty. And they encountered these mysterious figures telling them Jesus was alive from the dead. So they run away terrified. Nobody believes their report. I mean, he can't be alive. They all saw him die.
Now, just outside of Jerusalem, a pair of Jesus' followers were leaving the city, traveling on a road to a town called Emmaus, and they were sad and confused about everything that had happened.
Then Jesus shows up, walking alongside them, but they don't know it's him.
Yeah, that's weird. Why couldn't they recognize him?
Yeah, it's an odd but really significant image for them. They're blind to Jesus for some reason. So Jesus asks them, "What are you guys talking about?"
And they begin to tell him about Jesus, a powerful prophet who they expected would rescue Israel, but was instead executed. Some women say he's alive, which is crazy. It's all too much. We're going home.
So Jesus tries to explain that this is what the Jewish scriptures had been pointing to all along, that Israel needed a king who would suffer and die as a rebel on behalf of those who actually are rebels. And then he would be vindicated by his resurrection so he could give true life to those who would receive it.
But it's still not making sense. They're as confused as ever.
Which leads to the scene where they sit down for a meal with Jesus. He takes the bread, he blesses it, breaks it, and gives it to them, just as he did at the Last Supper.
Yeah, this is the image of his broken body, his death on the cross.
And it's when they take in the broken bread, that's when their eyes are open to see Jesus. Then he disappears, and the episode's over.
So this is a story about how it's hard to see Jesus for who he really is.
Yes, this is brilliant. I mean, how could God's royal power and love be revealed through this man's shameful execution? How could a humble man become the king of the world through weakness and self-sacrifice? It's very hard to see. But this is the message of the Gospel of Luke. It takes a transformation of your imagination to see it and embrace Jesus's upside-down kingdom.
The Gospel of Luke ends with Jesus and all of his disciples together over another meal. And everyone's freaking out about his resurrected body. I mean, he's still a human, but way more.
Yes, he's passed through death and come out the other side, a walking, talking piece of new creation. And then Jesus tells them that he's going to give them the same divine power that sustained him, so they can go out and share the good news of God's kingdom with other people.
After this, Luke tells us that Jesus was taken up into heaven, which is a cool exit and all, but why disappear into the sky?
So in the Old Testament, the skies are the place of God's throne. They're above everything. So this is Luke's way of showing that Jesus has been enthroned as the divine king of the whole world.
His followers stay in Jerusalem, worshiping God and Jesus, waiting for this new power. And this is where the gospel ends.
Now, Luke is going to write about how they received this power and take the news out into the world. And that's what his second volume, the book of Acts, is all about.
All right. So, that's for the Bible Project. I like the Bible Project. It's got some really good in-depth stuff that you can look and take with it. But why did the story of the Emmaus disciples happens in Luke chapter 24, verses 13 through 35, to where these two guys are going back to Emmaus and they're talking about everything because they didn't know what it was. Now, the two guys, we don't really know who these people are. We have an idea. One of them is one of them is the husband of Clopas, which we hear about her being one of the witnesses at the tomb. And so there's not a lot of like, the story is kind of on itself. It doesn't show up in the other gospels, but it's an interesting story of like what happens with the gospels, what happens with Jesus, and how, like, for instance, Jesus is with them, walking with them, but do they recognize him? Yes or no? No. They have no idea who this person is. They're just in, and Jesus asked this question, so what's going on? You know? And they're like, are you crazy? How is it that you're walking along with us from Jerusalem back to Emmaus and you have no idea what's going on? You know? And so I have a question. Why don't you think Jesus's friends recognized him?
They thought he was dead.
Because they thought he was dead. And quite understand all the goings on. You ever feel like, because here's the reality, Jesus was with them in that moment, but they didn't recognize him. Have you ever in your life felt like, where is God right now? Have you ever felt that way? Like, why isn't God listening to me? Why isn't God responding? You ever feel that way? Ever had those moments? I think a lot of times there are moments when we don't see or we don't understand God is there, but the reality of it is that he is there. That can be kind of hard for us. Like the Emmaus disciples, sometimes we don't recognize that God is there with us until, when was it that they recognized Jesus? When he broke the bread. When he showed, when they saw the evidence that he was right there, that was him right there. That's when they realized who he was. Sometimes it's when sometimes for us, we have to be willing to be looking for those God moments when we see that God is in fact with us. And sometimes we may not see it in the moment, but when we get through that season or when we get through that hard time, we can look back and see, oh, I saw where God's hand was here, God's hand was here, God's hand was here. Even though in the moment I didn't see it. Open up your Bibles to Psalm 139, and we're going to be looking at verses 7 through 10 for just a moment tonight. I made a commitment to have you guys done by 8, and I'm going to stick with it. And so can somebody please read Psalm 139, 7 through 10? I want everybody to have their Bibles open to it. And when we do this, I want you guys to just have your Bibles with you, open on your phone if you're using your phone.
Okay.
Go ahead, read it.
Where can I go to escape your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there. If I fly on the wings of the dawn and settle down on the western horizon, even there your hand will lead me, your right hand will hold on to me.
Very good. So David is saying what about God? Because he's the one that wrote this. He says what? Where's God? God is everywhere. God is with you when you're hanging out with your friends. God is with you when you're by yourself. God is with you when you're driving in the car. God is with you when you are in school trying to figure out how to answer a test. God is with you when you are at your job or trying to figure out what to do with your future. God is there with you. God is wherever you are in that moment. If you are a believer, if you are a child of God, God is with you. He's everywhere. So let me ask you this question in light of understanding that, because no matter what, God is with you. If you're a follower of God, if you've accepted Jesus as your Savior, God is with you and God is always with you. So let me ask you this. When is it easy for you to believe that God is with you? Yeah. Everything's going good. Yeah. Some of the easy, I think, for us as a youth group is like church camp when we see people worshiping, hands up. We know we can sense and feel that God is in His presence, right, in those moments. When else is it easy for you to know that God is there? Can I tell you something? I'm terrible about waking up in the morning. Just am. And there are moments when I have to be like Tuesday mornings, the next 3 Tuesdays, I will be, I'm going to go speak in a chapel, and their chapel starts at 8 o'clock in the morning. And that's super early. And nobody asked me about that. Like what I thought, I would have told them, don't ever do that because nobody's awake at that. Even your teachers are not. But that means I've got to leave by like 6:40 in the morning because it's in Little Rock. So I prayed Monday night, and I will be praying this again. And I'm honest, and I'll say, Lord, I need you to wake me up. And I can tell you, every time I've said that, it's happened. Like I've woken up. I really hope that the Lord doesn't teach me that doesn't always work. I hope that he continues to show me that does work, because I've got to go speak there 3 more times. But like Saturday, I had to get up and I had to be down, get everything ready for me, and be at the race where the race starts. So I prayed, Lord, I need help getting up. Please help me get up. And I said to say, in those moments, and when I see that does happen, and God wakes me up, and I'm like, I'm awake, and I'm like, all right, God, I can see God's hand at work, and I feel like God is with me in those moments. And that sounds probably weird and strange, but it's true. It's how I feel. I think in a lot of those moments when we ask God to answer our prayer and he answers it, and it's the prayer, and he answers the prayer that we want it to be answered, it's easy to see it, is it not? Like that God is there, but when is it difficult? Huh?
When nothing's going.
When nothing is going good.
If you pray about something and he says no,
If he says no, yeah.
handles it in a different way than you thought it does, that's feels like
When you're praying that something does happen and it doesn't happen. Right? Like you're praying that you make an A and you make a D. Has that ever happened to y'all? Do y'all pray before your test?
Yeah.
I know I did. I was like, Lord, I remember one test I was like, Lord, I have no idea what I'm doing on this. I need your help. And I did well. I passed. I don't remember. No, I don't remember anything of that. So, but there was a time when I was asked to take a test to see if the test was wrong in my history class, and I was like, and I aced the test, and so to see if the test was wrong, to see if he had an answer wrong, the teacher asked me to take the test, and I did. It's one of my only few highlight reels in my high school life was that.
The test was wrong, or something you were wrong?
No, I was right. So the test was wrong. So I proved the test wrong.
You were like the control to see.
Apparently I was. And I was like, sure. He goes, it's not going to count against you if you do poorly. I was like, all right, I'm down. Bet. No, we didn't say bet back then. It was the 90s. We're like, of course. Or for real. Or
Dude.
bro. Yeah, dude, probably. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting off track. But like in those moments, it's hard. Like when you're in trouble, it's hard. When you're grounded, is it hard when you're grounded to see that God is there in that moment? Like, because do you not feel all now? Realize that grounding is not like a nuclear meltdown, right? But it can be quite painful. Like when you have your phone taken away. How many of you have your phone taken away? Have you ever had your phone taken away? Show of hands if you've ever had your phone taken away. Confession's good for the soul. Allie, you've never had your phone taken away. She's like, no, I'm sweet and kind and good. Allison, you never had your phone taken away. Wow. Reese is making sure to point you. Brayden, what about you? Did you ever have your phone
Oh,
taken?
yeah.
Okay.
Only one time I like,
In that moment, all right. So in that moment, did you feel like you were all alone in that moment?
feel like I was angry because I was losing Snapchat.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Okay. But did you feel like you were, did you feel like, oh, hey, I'm trying to ask you a question. Did you feel like you were alone in that situation? Or did you feel like when whatever that punishment was, did you feel like, where are you?
I feel like it was a alone situation. I feel like it's something, bro. Come on.
Yeah, like,
Which I probably deserved this.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's not alone.
All right.
Like in a alone situation, it's not like like
A destruction sort of feeling, right?
yeah.
For me,
Yeah.
it's more
But in that moment, in those types of moments, or in those moments when nothing is going right, or maybe you've been asking God about this thing and it just seems like he's not answering. You ever feel like God, that passage that we just read might be too hard to handle? Or it might be kind of hard to feel in those moments that God is there. There's a phrase for that. It's called the dark night of the soul. It's when it's a season that even you just feel like God is not there, even though you know he is. Because the reality of it is that he is there. The reality of it is that in that moment, even in those hard moments, he is there. Let me ask you this question and moving on as we start to kind of wrap this up, because here's the big thing I want you to go through. As you guys are, like, for instance, Brayden is about to graduate and he's about to enter into a new phase of his life.
Come join me, brother.
And there's that over there, right? So, but like Chris and Allison, you're on the same sort of track. This summer you're going to be doing lots of things that, for instance, might be the last time you do things. Last time that you have basketball training in the summer, or baseball training in the summer, or last run practices, or things like that. Or you start looking at your life outside of high school, and in those moments and in that stuff. What? I'm sorry. Do what?
I just realized that like last summer she's like here.
Yeah.
I mean, she'll be at home. Like,
I mean, she'll be here through the summer of next year. It's not going to be the same.
Just wait until she graduates.
And so, like, think about this for you guys. Listen, think about this for you guys, is that as life goes, we all go through these seasons. We all go through this time of change.
I'm ready. I'm sorry.
We all go through the season. We all go through this time of change. And there's going to be moments for each and every one of you that you're going to feel like God is right there with you, and you can see and tell and know. There'll be those moments, those seasons when that happens, but there's also going to be those moments and those seasons and those things that happen. You're like, God, are you there? God, why are you not listening? God, I just feel, but it's in those moments that we have to realize, and we have to look and to see and to just trust in those moments to know that God is there, and that we turn our attention to looking for just seeing and knowing that he's there. Because the reality of it is he is. And a lot of times what we think is like, God, why are you not answering my prayer? What really it is that God is getting it ready. And God might be taking this time to help you be ready for the next thing. whatever that is. And I've shared with y'all about how, like, I remember sitting in my room as a teacher knowing that God was calling me to full-time ministry. And I was like, but just nothing was happening. And I was like, I remember thinking, God, where are you? And I realized, looking back, I saw God's hand in molding and shaping me, doing things. Like there were moments that I saw God preparing me, like, to get ready for what was to come. And he might be doing that with you. And maybe that there are some things in your life that you got to deal with, that you got to straighten up, that you got to make a difference to. It may mean that you just need to be encouraged to know that God is with you, even though you may not feel him right now, even though you may not sense him or see him right now as clearly as what you do when things are going well. God is with you even in those moments. The challenge I want you guys to do this week is, because, you know, some of you are in student group. I have 2 student groups that are chat messages, and there's also Jarrett created the Snapchat Southside Youth Group. And so if you have the snappy chats, you can be in that. But here's the challenge I want you guys to do. Yeah, you created it.
Oh yeah, that was a while ago.
Yeah, you should sit up and listen. But here's the challenge I want you to do. I want you to take one of those numbers in whatever student group that you're in. And I want you to send an encouraging note this week. I want you to encourage somebody. To remind each other that Jesus is with you. And I also want you to write a note or to send yourself a text message that simply says, Jesus is with you today. And allow that to just kind of look at that and be like, okay, I know Jesus is with me. How and where can I see him in this moment? How and where can I see him throughout my day? Maybe it's a text reminder that you send yourself every hour or whatever. So now you can schedule texts and all that. It's a whole thing. I just want to challenge you to do something like that to yourself. I want you to do that to each other this week. And if you need to know who somebody's number is, send me a text message. I'll be like, well, that's so-and-so's number. Okay. I want to encourage you guys to do that this week. If you'll do that, give me a thumbs up. Very good. Very good. Very good. Awesome. Awesome. All right, guys, let's pray. And then we'll be wrapping it up. Father God, thank you so much for today. Lord, I pray that you just be with us this week. Father, I pray that we are an encouragement to each other this week. I pray that in those moments when we feel like you're not there, Father, may we see you. May we see evidence. May we feel and know and understand that even in those hard moments, those hard seasons, that you are at work. You are at work in our lives. Father, be with us this week. Be with our Father, I pray that you just be with Silver. What a wonderful thing it is for her to get to celebrate today as she graduates. Father, I pray that you be with Hayden and Braden as they prepare to graduate in just a few short days, Lord. Father, I thank you so much for just all that you've done today. It's